Good morning and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 188. Today we're going to talk about the other better kind of meditation. What? There's another kind of meditation? It's better? What? And following your bliss until you starve to death. Thank you for joining me. My name is Weldon, and this is the Ask Weldon Show. I am a sports psychology trainer. I have a master's of sports science in sport and exercise psychology from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. Although I am not Finnish, that's a lie. I am Finnish. I got my citizenship like last year. Although I am American and I come from America originally, I have lived here for 8 years, and because I'm smart and I learned the language and passed the language exam and applied for citizenship, I now have 2 passports, and I can run away from any big problems that happen in the U.S. by moving closer and closer and closer to Russia. Wait. I've made a grave mistake. Anyway, this show is the show where you ask me questions about performance, about life, about esports psychology, about sports psychology, injury, all these sorts of things, and I answer them with my knowledge or my expertise. That's about it. Go to anchor.fm/Weldon Green and you can submit your question. I need questions. I'm answering my last 2 questions today, guys. Go submit questions. I do this show live on Twitch, twitch.tv/MindGamesWeldon, and I think that they're letting me down a little bit. The audience there always asks tons of amazing questions in the chat, and I answer them. But I think the fact that I answer all their questions and solve all their problems means they don't actually go and submit audio questions. So I'm relying on you guys on YouTube to go to anchor.fm/Weldon Green and write your question. No, sorry. It's all audio questions. You got to say your question into the phone so that I can play it on the show. No other big announcements from yesterday. Oh, I've restarted my Snapchat and my Instagram stories. Yesterday we had like a 4-hour story vlog of the gym. Normally I vlog my day, and I vlog it on Snapchat and on Instagram, and I include my daily gym, go through my workout, talk about overcoming struggles, and I answer any private or direct messages I have. So you can check those out. Same as my Twitter, MindGamesWeldon. MindGamesWeldon on Snapchat, MindGamesWeldon on Instagram, MindGamesWeldon on Twitch. YouTube does not let me take MindGamesWeldon, I think. It's just MindGames, GG. Anyway, I think they're really fun stories. You check them out before they expire. You're probably going to see this video maybe before they expire. But anyway, today's will be just as awesome. Okay, let's jump into the first question, everybody.
Hi, Weldon. So I've been
Thomas. Just drop that down a little bit.
reading recently that there are several studies that suggest that open monitoring meditation is better for divergent thinking, and that participants of these studies tend to be better on tests of divergent thinking after open monitoring meditation versus fixed attention meditation. And that's something I'd like to actively engage in, but I'm finding it hard to find resources on how to practice open monitoring meditation. I was wondering if you had any recommendations on how I can know I'm doing open monitoring meditation versus fixed attention meditation, and how I can practice that in everyday life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the amazing question. First of all, let me talk a little bit about what the difference is. The focused attention meditation is usually, or fixed attention meditation is usually where you focus on a particular thing, like the breath or a mantra or a piece of sensory input, etc., etc. And then open monitoring meditation, OMM, fixed attention meditation, FAM, FAM, open monitoring meditation, OMM, OM. And that is where you are essentially paying attention to where your attention goes. You're just looking at your attention, but allowing it to go anywhere you like. So usually people start out with fixed attention meditation, and then they kind of discover or move on to open monitoring meditation, because the way the open monitoring meditation starts out when it's, and I believe that most of it is called Vipassana, is that you bring your attention in, you bring it into the breath, you control it a little bit, and then you kind of like let it wander and you just pay attention to it. So it kind of starts out with fixed attention meditation and then moves on from there. So usually it's something that people kind of like step up into after they've been doing fixed attention meditation for a while. Thomas, I don't really have any resources that I know of that are just teaching this is what open monitoring meditation is and this is how you know you're doing it right. But I think if you just go to YouTube and you search open monitoring meditation guided scripts or guided, you'll find tons of scripts on open monitoring sessions, and you can just do them. And it's pretty hard to do it wrong. It's very similar to fixed attention meditation, where you don't notice, you'll all of a sudden notice you aren't paying attention to your attention, and then you'll start paying attention to your attention again. And the idea is just to monitor it and not really control it. And so it's in that way, it's very similar to fixed attention, where you notice your attention is wandering and you pull it back. Instead, you notice that your attention is wandering and you pay attention to your attention again, instead of just not paying attention to your attention. That's basically it. I think that you might try this with fixed attention meditation when you're walking. I noticed that I pretty much automatically do open monitoring meditation when I'm walking and I am doing meditation. So it starts out, I'll do fixed attention meditation and I'll walk for a while and I'll focus on the physicality of my body and the tread and the weight and my breathing and like sensory input from the world. And then I'll just free that. I'll just take the leash off and I'll just let myself pay attention to the world in general as I walk, or my thoughts. Although I try to do the fixed attention meditation first in order to ground myself in the sensory experience. And then I start paying attention to just like and then I just let it go. And usually it sticks around with the sensory input, because when you're walking, you have so much additional stimulus that it kind of provides you with like new interesting things and new interesting thoughts all the time. Plus you get a ton of blood flow to your brain. So try it when you're walking and see how it goes. I have a walking script in the Mac program, so you should check that out and download it to your phone and use that to kick off if you want to try the fixed attention monitoring part. I think that if you can't get it in the Mac program, just DM me on Twitter or something like that, and I can send you the MP3. It's right here on my computer. And for those of you who are wondering what in the world is the Mac program, it's my training program for amateur esport athletes / amateur performers who want to know what it is that I train pro players and how I train pro players, but don't have the money to afford a one-on-one session and haven't yet won the lottery of the signups in Discord to do my streamed one-on-one sessions. Then this is essentially like a $25 online training video course of 47 videos online that I used essentially the exact same content with CLG and TSM and G2 in terms of like how it is that I deploy mental resilience. So obviously I'm adapting it to each individual player's context and situation, but the crucible of information is this mindfulness, acceptance, commitment approach, and that is the one that I'm more or less based my philosophy on. Although it's evolving. It's evolving because there's new ways of talking about these ideas and new discoveries in the research about, you know, refining this and its association with flow state and things like that. And of course I have my own experiences to draw on as well. But there's a wonderful new book I'm reading that's kind of like taking that to the next level, which, by the way, is going to end up in the app. So I'm working right now on the new content of the app, which is the 4th version of this Mac program. And it's going to be launched sometime in the next 8 weeks, I'm hoping. Cross my fingers. All right, so check that out. If you are interested, use the code AskWeldon, please, because it will get you a $5 discount so that I know that you came from YouTube. All right, let's jump on to the next question.
Hi, Weldon. So I have kind of a 3-part question, similar but distinctly different.
Speak up.
In regards to bliss and happiness in life, what would you say is the best way to find and maintain your bliss? Also, how do you really know what true happiness is when there's no really like frame of reference in your life other than what media tells you? And this question I kind of stumbled upon when I was reading the book by George Mumford. He states that following your bliss leads to more open doors and opportunity. But at what point do you need to wait for opportunity, and at which point do you need to like chase after opportunity while still being productive in life? Thanks.
I'm going to rewind and listen to the
Hi, well,
very
also,
first part of
how
this.
do you really know what true happiness is when there's no really like frame of reference in your life other than what media tells you? And this question is similar but distinctly different in regards to bliss and happiness in life. What would you say is the best way to find and maintain your bliss?
Got it. Okay. So we have 3 questions here. I actually wrote down 2, but there's a third one that I just heard. What is the best way to find and maintain your bliss? All right. Wow, Gabe. Your question was 10 seconds shorter than most people. Most people fill up the 59 seconds of the question or the 1 minute of the question with some people don't even get to a question, to be perfectly honest. Like, they literally just ramble. You managed to pack 3 really concise, super intense questions into 49 seconds, which makes me think that there is a skill or quality to questioning. And I've certainly seen that when I was asking for people to submit their questions on Twitter. This was years ago, and there was a 140 character limit still. I got the best questions that I've ever received for the show since, because people had to spend a lot of time refining down their idea and struggling with it and working it and editing it and really thinking about what is it that they really want and really are asking, until they boiled it down to this pure essence of a question and then posted it to me. And as soon as I opened it up to text questions that were like, in Discord or somewhere else or in a YouTube comment, I just got this like verbal vomit of story and context and background, and some people like didn't even realize they weren't even asking a question. They were just kind of like talking, and then they had a question, but they didn't even know how to put it really. So I really miss that format that like makes people do the work. And when I switched to Anchor, it has a 1 minute audio component, right? And so it's limited, which is good, but it's kind of long, which allows people to really get a little bit of background and context in there, which I don't mind. But I think that like it's really clear that you have boiled down the essence of your questioning into like very concrete ideas, and you're curious about the steps. And so instead of asking 3 separate questions and 3 separate calls, you just went ahead and said in one with these 3, which I think is fantastic because I just separated them out. We're going to do them for the rest of the show. So let's kick this off. What is the best way to find and maintain your bliss? Man, I wish I could answer this. But I think that the first answer is exploration. You have to have a frame of reference that what you're doing is something that you enjoy. And for that, you need to also be able to compare it to stuff that sucks. So exploration is a great way to get that, I would say, that anchoring in your life, whether it's leaving everything and going to a new city, or leaving everything and going to a new country, or trying some new thing that you are very motivated by and you don't know if you're going to enjoy it or not. I think always being able to make that leap is really important. It's really tough for people who work the same job their whole life and are always wondering, what would it have been like if I quit my job and started my company full on? What would it have been like if I had children? What would it have been like if I, didn't work all the way to retirement and I quit 10 years early and when I was healthy and like went to Machu Picchu and just like climbed around and took photographs? What would it have been like if I didn't want to be a League of Legends streamer anymore and I just started streaming a new video game and my viewership tanked to like 100 viewers from like 1,000, but I didn't care because I was doing what I wanted? So I think exploration is a key part of this seeking, this quest. And then as far as maintaining your bliss, I think it's like I said, making yourself the final approval factor, or the only kind of like approval factor that you seek in terms of what it is you want to do. This example I made of the League of Legends streamer who has 1,000 viewers and wants to change into a different kind of stream, or like he doesn't like streaming League of Legends, but he knows that it will crush his audience and his viewership. The problem that he has mentally is like he can't escape from the money and the world and the fans and like the expectations placed upon him and just be true to his own desires. And that's like the act you have to do of shedding your skin and just saying, I don't care what everybody else thinks. This is very easy for people who don't have 1 million followers on Twitter. This is very difficult for people who have millions of followers on Twitter. So reinventing yourself, I want you to think about like how difficult it is for these Twitter people. Imagine that you have 2 or 3 people that see you in a certain way. Reinventing yourself in front of them is even more challenging. So maintaining your bliss is about that ability to say that my opinion is the one that matters, that is the most important to me. Even though I love you and I love your opinion, it's irrelevant to my own happiness. And so I need to seek what I am instead of what you perceive me to be. Okay, so how to find and maintain your bliss. That was not a blueprint for you, but that was a outline of the key psychological factors that you need, which is like an open, explorative mind that's willing to take risks, and then the permission to reinvent yourself based on your own perceptions of what you want to be, and not at all grounded in other people's desires of what you and like how they first came to know you. Okay, second question. How do you know if you are blissful if you don't have a frame of reference? This comes with experience and age, I think. It's pretty easy for me to tell if I'm blissful. I'm 35. I'm pretty sure I couldn't tell if I was blissful or not when I was like 16. But I think by the time I was in college, I was like, man, I have a good life. I'm just happy all the time. And that didn't really change. I was just like kind of happy all the time until the fall of 2014 when I had my first bout of, was it 2014, 2013? I think it might have been 2012, actually. Yeah, sorry, I lied. It was the fall of 2013 when I had my first bout of depression. And then I was like, oh, okay. Now I know what it's like to be depressed, but I think I knew by then that I was pretty much happy. I think that I didn't need to compare it to the bottom end. I'm not really sure, but I think that I didn't need to go to the bottom end of like unhappiness to like figure out that I was happy. I think that actually the thing that allowed me to realize how happy I was kind of all the time in general was to go to the top end. When I was doing gratitude conditioning in the summer of 2013, 2014, when I was walking to work, when I was doing gratitude conditioning and conversing with my wife every day and then getting to work and like accomplishing my goals on a daily basis because I was using the 5-minute journal, that was probably, and I was like departing, like was starting to work on my company for the first time and realizing that I was like an entrepreneur. And that was the problem that I'd had with holding all of these jobs for this 10 years of my life, and the fact that I couldn't hold them because I just was not interested in working for somebody else. That was probably the happiest, like just intrinsically, that I think that I've been in terms of blissfulness. And I don't want to go back there, but I think that gave me a grounding to realize like how, like yesterday in the gym, when I was walking back from the gym, I think I experienced multiple moments where the sensations were just as strong in terms of bliss of that moment back then. And so I think that kind of gives me a frame of reference or an index. And that comes from living life, to be honest. I would just say, unless you have pure evidence that you are unhappy, assume that you are just blissfully happy. It's way cooler to be like, wow, I am just, this is what worked for me, honestly. Like I was in college, I'm just, everything's amazing. Everything is amazing, right? And then one day I found out there were even more amazing things. I was like, wow, it gets more amazing. Cool. And then one day, even better things happened. I was like, holy crap. It's even more amazing. So I would just say, unless you have pure evidence that you are in a depressed, morose, suicidal, I'm not making light of this, but I'm saying like, unless you have clear evidence that you are in a very, very sad state, just assume that you are blissfully happy. See how that changes your perspective for like a 24-hour period. And then if you get to a day when you're happier, just reorient your index, your frame of reference. Carry that all the way to the top. I'm sure that sometime in my life I'll experience higher highs than I did then. And then I'll be like, wow, I'm even happier. That would be my recommendation. It sure as heck beats hanging out with people. Like, the worst thing, in my opinion, is hanging out with people who are Debbie Downers. It's just no fun to hang out with people who are complaining about their life. It's much more fun to hang out with people who are like, man, everything is so amazing. What you're doing is so amazing. And they're listening to you. And the reason they're listening to you and so attentive is because they're so satisfied with their life and their own happiness that they're like willing to take the time to just sit there and listen to you and remark upon what you're doing and how cool that is. They're willing to like just be focused on you. And I think that starts from a state of satisfaction and curiosity. And so you just have to start off being happy and having that curiosity and that satisfaction with your life so you can sit there calmly on the couch, just peacefully listen to somebody and be amazed at how cool their life is with zero jealousy or zero like other external motivations, but just like, wow, that's so awesome, because you yourself are situated in a kind of like loving kindness of yourself and a happiness of yourself. So just assume that you are until you have evidence to the contrary. And hopefully that evidence is positive evidence to the contrary. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it got better. Okay, last question. How long should you wait for your bliss to support you monetarily and pursue opportunity? How should you wait? Should you pursue? Or should you quit it all and go get a job? This is completely individual because some people can wait longer before they have to go get a job. Some people can wait less. And my opinion is that you should only pursue if your pursuit is part of your bliss. So like I am pursuing the thing that I know is making me happy and the thing that I know is going to make me happy. Like I want to renovate my house and I want to experience that renovation. I want to live in it. And so I'm pursuing the company of my dreams that will allow me to do that and renovate my house and live in this cool space and give my kids these cool rooms, right? And at the same time, I'm making sure that every single day I'm doing only the things that I want to do for that pursuit, right? So I'm always hedging the timeline of my long-term goal. I'm like, well, this is just going to take years longer because I don't want to do that, and I'm happiest doing this. So I'm going to do the thing that makes me happy. And apologies to my kids who are going to spend longer without having the cool house. So I think that like your pursuit / waiting of it should be gated by your enjoyment of the pursuit, I would say. Although I don't really like this way that this is kind of going, but essentially, if your pursuit is your bliss, then you're doing that. And if your waiting is your bliss, then you're doing that. And you have to be okay with either and the consequences of either. And when should you just go get a job? Well, I mean, that's a tough question, especially tough for me because I have been successful at quitting my job and pursuing my bliss. And so I have a lot of empathy for people who just have to feed themselves and their family. I would do whatever it takes to feed my kids, right? But I'm able to feed my kids. And so this is a tough one. I would say always have a safety net. Build yourself the kind of win-win situation where you can know that you can like rely on a family member or rely on somebody else to like bail you out. I think that a lot of my confidence comes from the fact that I know that at any point I could get a job teaching English on the internet. Probably just like take lessons from people who want to do ESL, and I could charge $7 an hour and I could just work 15 hours a day and I could make enough money to like feed the kids. Probably couldn't afford the mortgage, so we'd sell the house, we'd move into a small apartment, but we'd all have food. And that's how far I'm willing to go towards failure before I'm worried about stuff. Like I'm not worried about losing clothes or losing the house, or I don't have a car. As long as my kids can be taken care of and that we can live as a family, like that's really all that's relevant. So I think that I'm willing to wait / chase my bliss much longer and escape from the pursuit of stockpiling money for various goods, which gives me a lot more freedom and leverage. So I would say that the answer to this is your own tolerance for materialism and your ability to like offload costs by like living with roommates and tolerating really long commutes from really cheap areas to live, and just being generally happy with making all your own food from rice and beans and raw materials and things like that. And then if you have like family that you know you can always move back to, honestly, if you don't have a spouse and you don't have kids, then you do have a family you can move back to, then legitimately you have the longest runway ever. It only shortens when, and it doesn't even appreciably shorten. I can move back with my parents now with my kids, and they'd be happy to like help us out while I'm back on my feet. So yeah, so I think that question depends so much on your individual context, because I know there are people in much worse situations who have the raw darkness of life like inches away from them and waiting to consume them, and they have zero safety net. And most of those people are not on the internet and do not have access to this show in the first place because they're living in the ghetto somewhere in Mumbai right now, or India. And there are these very abysmal places that humans survive. And they come through with amazing mental resilience a lot of the times. Okay, that's the answer to your questions, Gabe, that I have. Those are not the answers to your questions, okay? But those are the answers to your questions that I possess. And I'm really glad that you were reading George Mumford's book, because, by the way, George Mumford's book is the, what's it called? Hang on, guys. George Mumford book. The Mindful Athlete. Yeah, it's one of the books that I have on my recommended list. It's one of the few that I have read that is not a research article, that I think contains ageless wisdom. And I really think George Mumford is a great kind of Buddhist scholar who speaks in a language that everybody can understand. And his book is really short, and he doesn't beat around the bush. He just says exactly what he thinks, and then he gets out of your way. It's pretty awesome. You should check it out. The Mindful Athlete. Go to my website, mindgames.gg/tools, mindgames.gg/tools, and click the link there, and then I get a little kickback from Amazon, of like 70 cents or whatever the 1% cost of the book is for recommending it to you. Thanks. You guys can pay for my Cheerios. Appreciate it. And that's the show for you today. Make sure to submit your questions. Anchor.fm/Weldon Green. This show's oxygen and lifeblood is the questions of you guys, the fans, and the audience. So please go to Anchor right now. Submit your questions. Submit 2 of them. Submit 3 of them. I don't care. I will get through them all. I might intersperse them between different shows so we don't have to listen to your voice, 5 questions in a row, but we just hear you once every single day. But I will get to them even if you submit a bunch at once. And thank you so much for giving me the attention that you have today, and for sending the questions, those of you who have, that I have already answered. Sayonara. See you tomorrow.